There's a couple things you got to do to check sometimes before you waste your time. I don't think this is alive. No. Dead. This is what's beautiful about hornbeams, okay? If you look at them, they get the muscly trunk. And the beautiful thing about hornbeams is this. They've got massive flares. But if you collect this, you're gonna have a huge cut up top. When we cut these, we cut them flat, okay? Because they'll sprout at the top. You want to get out a little bit from the base. Because you want to make sure he has feeder roots. Cut the roots off far enough away from the trunk. But you know it's not gonna kill it. You want to have it far enough away to where you get a lot of feeders. We're actually right in the prime season right now to collect. Now also when you're doing this, sometimes you find this big giant root and you're like, oh, so hard. It's not even the root for the tree. It's a root for a different tree. These typically will grow in the pockets of larger trees.
Does that make them easier or harder to collect?
Usually it's more difficult because the roots are intertwined.
Okay. So you typically would pass on one of those?
No, no. I look for the ones with the character. Hornbeams should typically have movement or interest. If I find one that has an interesting base, that has a good flare, I'll collect it. Now when I do my first exploratory thread, then I pull. If it gives like this, I know I got all the big roots. Now, see how they have some motion here? There's not a lot of paper. I could cut it here, and then I'd have to have it sprout here, okay? And then work on carving it back and building branches on this over the next few years. So I think I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna cut it a little high. Now, big mistake is a lot of times people cut it way too high. They cut it here. This will never be good bonsai. It's too straight, it's too boring, there's no taper. There's an interesting amount of movement, not a lot, but it's gonna be looking like a tree. This is gonna be more like an informal. So I'll cut it here, knowing that I'm gonna end up carving it again once it sprouts. But I'm not in any terrible hurry. And then when I bring this home, I'll seal this, and I'll seal the big cuts on this, and I'll put it right into a training pot. We are on private property, and we do have written permission by the owner to come out here. We don't do this just out in
State forest
or
roadside.
Yeah, private property without permission. It's a great way to get shot.
Especially in the state of Florida where we have very liberal gun laws.
I do cut a flush cut, or I cut it straight across at first. And I don't let it tear on the bottom, because this is what I'll end up sealing when I get home. But this is going to have a lot of carving. And then I pull it down, see what I have as far as feeders, try to keep as many as I can. You can use your saw to cut the fine feeders. Or you can use this big old piece. So I leave some of the soil around it, because it's not moist. And I wrap it in a bag, keep it in the shade. The good thing about collecting in a dormant is that respiration is limited. The trick is to just keep the sunlight off the roots, keep them from desiccating. If we're around the water, like later, we'll put some water in them on the roots. Last but not least, you always want to fill in your holes. Last thing we want is for the owner to come out here and trip on a hole that we made.
It's about to break off.
This one right here is live. Although if you look at this, it looks like two different trees that sprouted. Probably wouldn't fuse. It'd be a difficult one to collect. There's other types of trees here. There's American elm. There's tupelo. Let's get back down a little bit further. I'm only taking this dirt back because I wouldn't be able to carry it out to the swamps otherwise. As soon as we get it out on dry land, we'll wrap it in plastic, get it wet, then it'll go into the intermittent mist until tomorrow. It's amazing what a pile of sand will do. Difference in the weight. Every pound you leave in the woods is a pound you can use to fill the hole, and a pound you don't have to put on your shoulder.